Hello, everyone, and welcome to Opening Pathways with Tom Lenoble. I have the great pleasure of having Karla Salazar with me today. Karla is the executive director of Scholar Match, a nonprofit in San Francisco and LA, here in California, that I'm quite fond of. And Karla is also an award-winning leader. She's got unbounded energy, and when you're around her, it's infectious. So, Karla, welcome to Opening Pathways. It's good to have you here today.
Thank you, Tom, and happy Friday. And thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Yes, it's a delight. I'm curious, as a question to get started here, what inspired you to join Scholar Match as the executive director?
Great question, Tom. I consider Scholar Match a labor of love. I am first generation student, but I'm very fortunate to come from a family of educators. My grandmother was an elementary teacher for over 30 years, someone that I highly respect. And for me, I always joke around and share that I feel like I was the black sheep of the family because I didn't pursue the family business, which is education. Most of my family members, cousins, are teachers. I didn't pursue that business. But I always see myself as an advocate of education, especially as having the privilege of being part of being adopted. I consider being adopted by this beautiful nation. One of the pillars of democracy that I greatly admire about the United States, it's the opportunity that we provide free quality public education to our students. At least that is the goal. And for me, when I hear how great public schools were in the 50s and 60s, the different etiquette classes, the different art classes that were offered, it makes me really linker for that. Really, I want that for all of our students. So for me, the lens in which I pursue education is from providing that quality public education for all. My dream is that before I die, all students will have access to free higher public education. That's
Wonderful.
the best impact we can
It
make.
is. Yeah, I agree. You know, I agree with you. And you told me a little story about a student you met today that's making a decision. Tell us about that, and how often does that happen for you?
Yeah, I always try to fill my cup like all of us. We are focusing our day to day, that day to day grind. And it's really important when you're removed. I'm not a direct service provider per se, since I'm heading the organization. So I always like to take what I say a pause and smell the roses, be able to really interact with those that we're serving. So I had the opportunity to visit Mission High School, one of our core high schools that when we first were birthed, as I say, as an organization, nonprofit organization. I visited the campus, and the college counselor was so excited to share with me that one of our students was extremely proud of their mentor, their college coach that supported them through the whole college application process. And he was very impressed with the quality of our volunteers. And he was asking me, what's your secret sauce? Where are you getting these volunteers from? Because they're professionals. And I mentioned that over 40% of our volunteers are college admission officers. They really want to give back to the community and in a way that's deeper, and they're able to interact with students and be able to support the local community. They know that our college advisors at high school college advisors, counselors are really stretched. The ratio is typically 400 or 500 to 1. And so anything that we could do to bring additional resources is such a blessing for our communities. And it's a source of pride to us to be able to alleviate some of that stress to our schools. So he was excited that we were there, and he's like, "You can't leave without meeting the student that he has a tough decision." He got us up to his top three choices: UCLA, UC Berkeley, and UC San Francisco. So, of course, a little bias. I graduated from UCLA, so I was trying to rah-rah for UCLA, but I don't think it was budging. And most likely, I believe he's going to choose UC Berkeley. But
Wow.
Wonderful schools.
Couldn't go
Absolutely.
wrong, right? Can't go wrong with any of those. You know,
Absolutely.
I have the good fortune of interacting with your team every now and then, and they clearly have a passion for what Scholar Match is doing. What do you think drives that passion for your team?
A lot of it is because we see ourselves reflected in the work, and we understand how important that is to have someone that understands the story, understands our personal journey, the struggles, and has that personal perspective. I think we all, as human beings, like to be seen and recognized and not feel like, weird stranger, and feel that understood. And I think that's a basic human necessity that we want to feel that we're not the only ones. And so, with that in mind, a lot of our team members knew what it was like to be the first in their family, knew what it was like to struggle and trying to fit in. And when sometimes you feel like a square in a circle. And so, really being having that human, that personal touch and that personal experience really is enriching. And that's one of the reasons I feel that we have that loyalty and commitment and passion for the work that we
Yeah,
do.
it's a great team. I'm sure our listeners would want to know, I know I do, what experiences shaped your leadership, your approach to leadership and your style of leadership? What was it that generated that and led to how you lead today?
It's a great question because, obviously there's the traditional route. Peter, I studied the masters in management. I devoured every book. Went back to UCLA Anderson School and did the executive program and got my certification in management. I did all those right steps, but to be honest, where I learned the most was in observing and understanding what leader not to be. So whenever I was in front of a leader that was not creating or supporting a positive environment, for me, that was the lesson. That's what I don't want to be. And so I learned more from individuals that I felt were not creating a positive work environment, that were toxic, than, to be honest with you, it was a great way, because they don't teach you that in the books, how to be a horrible manager. They typically
Yeah,
focus on how to be positive and how to be X, Y, and Z. And to be honest with you, management styles have changed over time, because I remember when I first entered the field of management, a lot of the belief was that your personal business stays outside the minute you walk into your work environment. You became a robot. You were not a whole human. Whatever's happening in your personal life stays outside those doors, your work doors. You come in, focus on work, and that's it. Productivity, bottom line. Then we realize with emotional intelligence that we're not robots, that it's a whole person, and you got to support the whole person. Because if half of you is limping along, it's going to impact. You're not, everything that you do is going to, and that is going to have a domino effect. And so, really creating that support process, and being a mindful employer, mindful leader. It's as important as understanding statistics, data, and so forth, because you can't inspire anyone if they don't feel that you are
yes,
part of that team. You care about them. When I've noticed that a leader is very effective is when their team feels cared for, that my boss has my back. So I'm going to go for bat for them because they have my back. And so loyalty, trust is earned.
yeah. I think, if we're going to be the people that lead humans, we have to remember to be a human. Uh,
Absolutely.
yes, yes. I'm curious, what were some of the biggest obstacles you faced coming into Scholar Match, and how did you overcome them?
Wow, you're taking me back to 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic. And as many nonprofits, and actually as everyone, we were trying to figure out how to survive in a very complex environment because speaking of being a whole person, it was very scary, both personal and professional, because we didn't have any answers. And I pride myself in being a problem solver. I love putting puzzles together in my mind because physically I do not like putting them together, but I love understanding and the layers of complexity and how do I fix it. I love to build and fix. And so for the first time, there was a challenge where I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I had the tools. And the main tool was first and foremost to make sure that my team felt supported, felt understood, and I acknowledged that these were very scary times. So that was the first layer to really acknowledge the elephant in the room. Yes, this is scary. I'm scared, but together we could do this
Yeah.
one step at a time. The second, let's looking at the financial because we did lose 1.5 million in funding. And so we had to close our alley office, everything that you have to do if that's why I have a love and hate relationship with numbers. What I love about numbers that they don't lie. It is what it is. It's black and white. The numbers tell you if you don't have revenue, then you got to cut down your expenses. There's nothing else you could do about that. And so really straightforward what needs to happen. And so what we started to do, and that's because early on we had buy-in from the team. They knew this is a collective effort. We're going to make decisions as a collective. Is really look at slimming down, contracting. Where can we tighten the belt? We're in this together. Our goal is not to lay off anyone, but we all have to pitch in. So where can we make cuts? And when you have that philosophy in mind, everybody's invested because they feel protected, they feel cared for, they feel loved as an organization. And so having a strong leadership team that supports that vision and reinforces it is pivotal for any organization. I am not Superwoman. I am not the a guru that has all the answers, but I have a strong team that makes sure that we are heading in the same direction and not going opposite ways. Because that when you are in not in balance with your management team, with your leadership team, then that's where it's a dysfunctional organization.
Wow. Um, but you are a superwoman, know that. That's for sure. Was there ever a time when you doubted your vision on this journey you were on?
No, because I really strongly felt, and this is really speaks to the previous leadership, Diana and Dave Eggers, who's our founder of Scholar Match, really set a strong foundation. And we have very committed, loyal donors like yourself, and who would really believe in the work and the mission. So you can't be in the nonprofit world without being filled with hope and so that's my number one always. I am a strong believer that we all have great intentions and that we're good people. We just need to give each other that opportunity to really shine and make that space for it. It may just look a little different than what we will perceive, but everybody has good intentions if you're given the opportunity. It's just being able to channel that energy and given that opportunity to take action. So I would
Wow.
say no, I never did that because I believe in the best in humanity.
Um, who were your mentors along the way? Did you reach out to mentors you had? Who was there for you?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. I could not be in this journey without many, many mentors. And I'm a strong believer that you have little angels come your way that could be there for a day, 30 years or so forth. What's that saying? When the student is ready, the teacher will come. I'm a strong believer of that. And it's when you open yourself up and you are open-minded. One of my pet peeves is I don't like, and I'm sure no one does, like to given advice that is not that's unsolicited and not welcome, because a person really has to be ready. And I don't like to waste my time, and I don't like to waste anyone's time. And so that's something that I'm very sensitive about, is making sure that that person's ready for what I'm about to share. So I always ask for permission, and to make sure, because otherwise it's disrespectful. So for me, it started early on. When I came to the US, I was 8 years old. English is my second language. So I was learning, and I was very eager, and I was a huge Carpenters fan. I love the Carpenters. And so I was listening to their music, looking at the lyrics, and that's how I started learning English. And so my teacher was fascinated that within 6 months, I was really advanced, and so she just threw me into a regular class. And then it's like sink or swim. And I just started swimming because I was so eager to please and be part of a team and feel, normal, not, who's that strange girl that can't speak English? And so that was exciting to me, to be able to conquer what I felt was my little big mountain to climb. And it was that early, that teacher that believed in me and took that risk, and said, yeah, she's, you're doing great. And she paired me up with another student. And I was and just really thrived. And early on, I was tracked for college bound. And so I had Miss Higaki, my fourth grade teacher, that I'll never forget. Such a sweetheart, just so giving of herself. She's one teacher that I wish every single student had, because she knew that our parents worked long hours. She would, if the parents couldn't come to the school, she came to the home and visited, and made a point to bring the students' work, to praise the student in front of the parents and give them that space, so that child felt very important and so smart. And that makes a huge difference. You're uplifting that little kid's spirit, and they feel like they're a phoenix, like they could conquer anything. And that's what you need to do. You need to build kids to be confident in their abilities. And
Yes.
Miss Higaki was that for me. And among others, Miss
Wonderful.
Barnett. I had wonderful teachers.
Wonderful, wonderful memories of your teachers. And what you've done now is the Carpenters will be in my ear for the rest of the weekend, because my high school song I just remembered was "We've Only Just Begun." So I'm
So,
gonna hear that melody for the weekend, Karla. You shared with us that you came into Scholar Match and it was some tough times during COVID and some belt tightening and other things that were going on. What was the biggest turning point? When did that happen? And tell us about it.
It was, rightfully so. Like I said, in moments of turmoil, everybody has to assess and decide, okay, where are our strengths? What do we do? So we had some funders, and it's also very normal that when you have a new executive director, some funders pause because they don't know if that person's going to change the mission of the organization, direction, and so forth. I understand that. And so we had some of that, where some of the funders said, you know what, with the pandemic, we really want to focus on environmental justice, for example, or we want to focus in this area. So they were kind enough to give us some time to shift and adjust. And so, but we had our little holiday miracle, that 1.5 that was going away, that went away in October. Come December, we had a major foundation from San Francisco step up and say, here's general operation for the organization. We love what you do. We want to support it. We want you to continue to be in the Bay Area. And so we were awarded 1.5 million, the exact amount. But with the difference, this was general operations support, which is music to any nonprofit leader.
Yeah.
That is what we pray for, bring in prayer always. Please give us general operations so that we have that flexibility to be able to support our services as needed.
Well, I happen to know you're a great fundraiser. What's your secret?
Just that I love people. I love learning about folks, building relationships, really understanding what inspires them, how we align, our missions align, and how can we make sure that their legacy is carried through. if there's mission alignment, because that's important. Like I said, to me, the work that I'm doing is the work that I might paying it forward. I'm very fortunate to have had wonderful mentors throughout my trajectory, from elementary through, college. I had a mentor, a college counselor at UCLA who really took me under her wings, and she was finishing up her PhD in education. And so she introduced me to the whole graduate school in that world and what that and made that possible for me. So no longer was I just want to get a bachelor's. To me, I'm like, wait a second, I want to explore a master's. What is that master's about? And so it really also exposed me to a different world, and that I could make certain amount of money that I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that there's what is this salaries world? What is this? And how do people earn this much amount? I thought only, sports figures and entertainment made millions. And I started understanding the different ways that you could earn. And I started to have a different relationship with money. So there was just a lot of exposure that mentors provide. And to this day, I've had very fortunate to have individuals that inspire me to really push myself and be better every day.
Good, good, good. So you righted the ship, you got through the storm, and we're starting to smooth sail. What unexpected challenge happened along that journey after it was moving along?
There's always a challenge in an organization. There's always something that happens. In 2023, we had a crisis. Some of you may recall in San Francisco, we had a few banks close. We had our business with First Republic Bank. And so I'm very fortunate. I used to work for the Federal Reserve Bank for 7 years, so I have friends in the banking industry. So I'm at a conference on a Friday morning, early morning. I get an email saying, "Are you watching the news?" And I was like, "What's going on? Look at what's happening with First Republic." And so then I would get on my phone, start looking, and then realize that one other bank had closed, and I'm blanking out the other name. And First Republic Bank was also starting to have conversations. I'm like, we need to take action immediately. So my banking friend said, you could transfer all of your funds to my bank. We'll expedite it. Because for me, what I was really afraid, this is scholarship money that we have. So we want to make sure that that money is safe for our students, because this is loan repayment money. This is money that we want to make sure is that we're taking care of our scholars. And so we were able to transfer that in Olympic timing, a record breaking time, and save the day. And because of those, really, again, the importance of relationship building and having genuine relationships, genuine trusting relationships, because we knew each other. We serve on different boards. We have the banking background. She extended herself because there were many individuals knocking at different banks' doors trying to transfer things immediately, because they were afraid that funds will be frozen, you wouldn't have access to them, and that would delay us being able to pay out student loans and then give money to students. So it was a huge crisis for us, because I didn't have anywhere else to say, oh, here's some more money in case those assets were frozen. And so we were able to transfer everything within a week. And I will be, again, forever grateful to have those relationships that saved the day for us.
I bet that was a great exhalation when it was over, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
let's shift to the future a little bit. Where do you see Scholar Match in 5 years?
Wow. With technology changes, it's exciting times. I feel like we're at a new frontier with artificial intelligence. And so I'm really trying to grasp a lot. How can we maximize our impact by utilizing it, but without losing that human component? Because that's very much needed. Obviously were areas that we could immediately benefit from it, some common questions that could be answered through artificial intelligence that our students have. Everybody has common questions. So that could be quickly answered, especially for first year students. A lot of the same, everybody has the same questions. Although I was asked once and I was it kind of made me giggle inside. One of the students that was about to start their freshman year asked me, so when's the best time to do laundry in the dorms? I'm like, no one had ever asked me that question. I thought it was hilarious. And it was a guy that was asking me that question. And, I gave it a good minute. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I would, if I were you, first thing in the morning before anyone wakes up, I would be
Pretty-
in that laundromat making, my laundry. But I thought it was so cute that that was, one of the main
Yeah.
concerns that we had. But we really want to leverage technology. My dream is to be able to serve in rural communities, in communities that don't have a lot of network. We're very fortunate to have over 300 volunteers, and that's huge. And I want that, my what I call our soldiers of love to grow to 1,000 and be able to serve all communities that need us throughout the U.S. I get calls from Idaho asking how can we how can we bring Scholar Match to Idaho? And it breaks my heart because I wish we could immediately just flip a switch and be able to do that. And so I really want to use technology to be able to make that happen because our volunteers are nationwide. They're professionals in different and dynamic fields from engineering, medical doctors, artists. And so it's so rich and really covers all geography. I have folks in Texas, Florida, New York. And so when we have students who are going to Boston, for example, we have, coach who can give them not only about the college experience, talk about the college experience, but just culturally, what is Boston like? How's the weather in Boston? What kind of coat you should be buying, especially from coming from Southern California, for example. We're not used to snow. So how do what's the right coat to buy? What's the right boots to wear, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things sometimes we take for granted, but those are basic things that we definitely, want to address and use technology to leverage that so we could then have a human connection to have that human component for the most sensitive conversations. When one of the first calls that we I had to address when I joined the organization was a call from a young woman asking for help because she didn't have funding. She didn't want to go back home because of a domestic violence issue. And so, those are not comfortable conversations. I want her to talk to a robot and figure out where we could get funding. We want to be, personal, make sure she's okay emotionally, make sure she has the support she needs, and so forth. And you cannot do that with artificial intelligence. I don't care if they sound like a human. That's not who we
Yes.
are as an organization. And so
You
we
know,
always want to give that personal touch and be able to um, make them feel like they have family outside of the university.
yeah, I think AI is definitely upon us and going to be more so all the time. I'm learning more and more about it myself and using it and excited about it. And I read an article the other day where a fairly large company, the CEO put out a memo saying that we will use AI for this, we will use AI for that. And the last bullet was before you ask for a resources, human resources, people, you'll need to prove that you could not have done it with AI. And I thought, wow, that was a bold statement. But as we do it, I hope that we remember there is a human factor in it. There's certain things that may just require a human involvement and human touch. And I'd like to think that we're going to build it so that somehow works together to make that happen as it goes forward. I'm interested to know what keeps you motivated and inspired as a leader.
That little girl that had big dreams. The 8-year-old when I came to this country was 8 years old in the US. So to me, coming from Nicaragua, a country of 6 million to a huge nation where I felt, there was so much potential and so many dreams to accomplish and so much hope for the future that was around me because that's what the United States represents for a lot of immigrants. It's hope, it's a better life, it's a new start, it's love. And that feeling of feeling invincible when you're a little girl, I never want to lose that. That it keeps me hungry, keeps me focused, motivated, and the fact that I'm a parent of a 20-year-old keeps me on my toes in
That's
terms of in terms of we want a better future. I feel responsible, my generation. I want to make sure that we're leaving a better future for the upcoming leaders, that we are not, it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to make sure that we leave a better world than when we found it. And I'll
I
never forget that little age starstruck and that hunger to be seen. I never want to forget that.
I love that story. I want to be learning every day. I want to learn something every day. No matter how long I'm around, I want to learn more every day. It's the best, right? What one piece of advice would you give to someone new thinking about they're going to take on the role of executive director at a nonprofit? What would you be your one piece of advice that you could give that person?
Really take the time to understand your team, your board, and your community that you're serving. Take the time to meet one-on-one with them, understand what's working well, what's not working well, and identify who are going to be your foot soldiers that are going to be rolling their sleeves and working along with you. Because there's always going to be the naysayers, and there's going to be individuals who are going to say, it's going to be tough, but I'm right beside you. And those are the individuals you want to identify very early on. So the naysayers just stay behind and you're just moving forward with the team of
Wow,
doers.
that's such good, great advice for someone. Thank you, Karla. Thank you, Karla Salazar, CEO, I mean, Executive Director. She's like a CEO, Executive Director of Scholar Match, a wonderful nonprofit here in San Francisco and in California that I encourage you to check out. Their mission is incredible in helping first-gen students realize their dreams in life through education. Karla, thank you for being with me today, and I hope to see you really, really soon.
Thank you, Tom, and have a wonderful weekend. And thank you for this opportunity.